Welcome back to another explainer. Today, we're looking at macOS Dev Plus, and specifically, the macOS Tahoe web experience. If you're a developer, a designer, or really anyone fascinated by web tech, you know the drill. You constantly need to access different operating systems, right? But the traditional barriers to entry, usually pretty high. Well, this completely bypasses all that. We're talking about stepping right into a macOS environment straight from your browser. No heavy installations required. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Want to experience macOS without the download? You know the feeling. You just want to feel out the design language for a new app you're building, or maybe test how a layout renders in a native Safari environment. Normally, that curiosity hits a massive roadblock. You simply don't have the time to deal with a massive download, and you definitely don't want to buy new hardware just to check a few elements. So, that's the core premise we're exploring today. An instant, completely frictionless preview of an operating system right inside your browser window. Think about it. No spinning up heavy virtual machines, just totally on-demand access.
Heavy installations versus instant macOS Tahoe web browser access. Historically, we all know testing an OS meant partitioning hard drives, configuring clunky VMs, and waiting hours for gigabytes of data to install. It's a notorious workflow killer. But the alternative we're looking at here completely removes that friction. Zero downloads, zero waiting. You literally just drop a URL into your browser and boom, you are inside. For developers, this is a real game changer. Instead of dedicating an entire afternoon to setting up a sandbox, it transforms a heavy infrastructure task into an incredibly agile, lightweight tab right there in your browser.
The authentic menu bar. When you first load this up, you aren't just greeted by some generic, clunky web approximation. I want you to imagine sweeping your eyes right across the top of your screen. You immediately see the authentic menu bar. This is the absolute cornerstone of macOS navigation, so having it rendered via web technologies at such high fidelity is honestly a massive technical achievement. It sets the baseline expectation right away. You're not looking at a basic CSS mockup, you're interacting with a thoughtful, deep simulation designed to behave exactly how a seasoned Mac user would expect.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the Finder. The authenticity starts right out of the gate. This isn't just a generic file tree wearing a Mac costume, It's a highly accurate preview of the environment. Building a file management system inside a web browser that actually mimics native OS state management and file paradigms requires some serious engineering. When you interact with this Finder, you quickly realize you're using a sophisticated web application. For developers, it instantly establishes trust that the team behind macOS Dev Plus truly understands the underlying nuances of the platform.
File, edit, view, go, window, help. That authenticity extends through the entire standard array of macOS navigation elements. You're interacting with the complete workflow framework you're already used to, fully intact inside your browser. You aren't getting some watered-down version with half the options missing. The immense value here is seamless context switching. If a designer is trying to check how their app's menus comply with Apple's human interface guidelines, having this living, breathing reference point just a click away is incredibly useful. It bridges the gap between reading static design docs and actually interacting with the interface.
Edit with. Let's look a bit closer at the granular attention to detail here. If you dive into these menus, you'll find highly specific, nuanced workflow options meticulously preserved, like the contextual action to edit with. Isolating a tiny piece of interface text like this shows that the simulation runs deep. Mapping out these contextual menus means the application isn't just rendering a static picture, it's dynamically generating the proper context based on whatever DOM elements you're interacting with. It proves this is a fully functional simulation, not just a superficial shell that breaks the second you click it. Friday, May 22nd, 8:25 a.m. And this brilliantly illustrates the complete immersion of the experience. Over on the far right of the menu bar, that authentic system clock isn't just visual flair, it preserves your real-time context directly in the browser. It's exactly these small, vital details that make the environment feel alive. To engineer a web-based OS simulation that actually pulls your local time and natively formats it within the UI is crucial for immersion. When you're testing software, you don't want jarring reminders that you're in a simulation. The life clock just seamlessly mirrors your real-world context.
So, ready to step into macOS Tahoe Web? We've seen just how seamlessly it captures the native UI, from the sophisticated engineering of the Finder and the menu bar down to those dynamic context workflows and the live system clock. And crucially, it delivers all of the whole shebang without a single byte being downloaded to your local hard drive. It's a totally frictionless way to explore a complex interface. It really makes you wonder, how much further will browser-based OS environments go? Could this entirely replace traditional virtual machines for cross-platform testing?
Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and I highly recommend you go experience this UI for yourself.